What's up, everybody? It is the Black and Intellectual live stream. It is February the 16th, Friday, February the 16th. I'm glad everyone is here with me, joining me on this live stream right now. Give me a moment to retweet everything out. Hold on one second. This is episode number 10. And today we are actually going to talk about two things primarily. Because both things that I want to talk about, I want to spend a good amount of time discussing. So I'm not going to be covering too many topics today. And actually, I'm going to postpone today's Black History Month profile, and I'm going to save it for Monday. I might double up on Monday. I'm going to see how that goes. Because today I want to talk about the Parkland mass shooting that happened on Wednesday after I ended my live stream. So you guys know I start my live streams at 12 p.m. And that happened, that sadly occurred after I'd already finished. So I didn't get a chance to talk about it on Wednesday when it happened. So I'm talking about it today. And of course, as I mentioned on Wednesday's show, I will be discussing, spoilers by the way, the Black Panther movie that just came out. For most people, it came out yesterday on Thursday. I had a 7 p.m. showing, tickets for the 7 p.m. showing in my local area, and I definitely went out there. I tweeted about it, not too much, but I just tweeted that, you know, we are in here. It was a great movie, but I'm saving that for last, just in case you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to be spoiled. Because I'm not splitting up, you know, I'm not doing like a spoiler-free thing and then a spoiler thing. I'm not doing all of that. I'm just doing one review, and I'm just gonna talk about the movie itself and my reaction to the movie. I'm gonna talk about the characters, the actors and actresses, the visuals, the story itself, and really what it means culturally, for Hollywood, for cinema, and for what it means for Black Americans and Black people in Africa and across the diaspora, and why this movie is resonating so strongly. Why it is, this is easily, in my opinion, it's the most viral thing I've ever seen in my life. I haven't seen this many people get this hype for a movie before, and I'm talking about even if you include Star Wars. You know, me personally, I haven't experienced something like this before. This is kind of new for me, so I'm saving that for the end though. And I will, before I do the review, I'm gonna mention again for people who might not be listening at the moment that I will be dropping spoilers in case you don't want to hear that, so you can, you know, cut the stream off at that point. But let's get started. So, like I said, on Wednesday, a little after 2:19 p.m., a killer who I just don't want to name. I'm not going to say this person's name. His name, quite frankly, is not relevant. It's what he did that's relevant, and it's the reaction from politicians, the reactions from our so-called representative leaders. And I use that word representative very loosely, and I use the word leader even more loosely. Because they don't represent us. That's very clear, and it's debatable how much leadership goes into the decisions that they make, and how good of leaders they actually are. But I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that little bit later on in the stream. But this killer, this lunatic, walked into a school that he used to attend before he got kicked out because they knew he had problems. And in Parkland, Florida, he walked into this school and used the AR-15 that he owned to murder 17 people, which included faculty and students. And this story, the day that it actually happened, I was just stunned, right? But all yesterday, I kid you guys not, all yesterday I had a headache. I don't know if it was the anticipation for the Black Panther premiere, and I was just so hype about that it gave me a headache and just made me a little lightheaded. But that doesn't usually happen for me. Like, I don't usually get headaches when I get excited about stuff. I know that happens to some people. You know, some people can work themselves up in anticipation for something so much that it makes them a little ill. I've never had a problem with that in the past, though. So I'm inclined to think that it was this story that literally made me sick. It makes me sick, and not nauseous. It wasn't a stomach sort of thing. This thing made my head hurt, knowing that not only are these shootings now predictable because they happen so regularly, and I'm about to show you guys some data. You guys know I like to bring out the data. I'm gonna bring out some data that shows just how commonplace these shootings are. But it not only made me sick because this is predictable, but it made me sick because the reaction to this shooting is so predictable. It's so predictable that you had people on CNN, on MSNBC, because I was watching the cable news. You know, in situations like this, you're kind of forced to watch the cable news because they're the ones on the ground, right? So I was watching CNN. I was bouncing back and forth between CNN and MSNBC. And the anchors on both channels were like, yeah, you know, this is going to be predictable. People's reactions are going to be predictable. They're going to come out with the thoughts and the prayers, and nothing's going to be done about it. This is going to be a story. This is going to be a story for maybe a day or two. Well, not a day, but maybe a few days. This is going to be a story for maybe 2, 3, 4 days. Okay, and then they're going to move on to something else. And lo and behold, just as people predicted, guess what happened? You had politicians coming out talking about thoughts and prayers. You had people, local officials in the area, the governor, the superintendent, everybody's coming out talking about thoughts and prayers. Just all of this just seems so scripted at this point. And I know it's not scripted from the point of view of people knowing that well, actually, no, it kind of is scripted from the point of view of people knowing that they're going to happen, because, like I said, it happens so often that it's going to happen eventually. You just don't know where, and you don't know when, but it's going to happen. So the reactions are just so predictable, and it's knowing the inaction from our politicians on this issue is just it's mind-numbing how this is just allowed to go on in this country. And I feel terrible for the people, for the families who lost people, who lost children and loved ones in this shooting. And America is averaging one school shooting every 63 hours. Okay, that's how bad it is. And that's just the school shootings. That's not including mass shootings in general that aren't on school properties. So this is from the Huffington Post. It says, a reported shooting at a South Florida high school on Wednesday marks the country's 17th shooting at a school in 2018, just 45 days into the year. Now, this was originally reported as the 17th mass shooting at a school. Like, people were saying that there have been 17 or 18 mass shootings at schools. That's not actually accurate, and people have had to come out and correct that. But there have been 17 or 18 shootings, maybe not mass shootings, but just shootings in general at a school so far in just 2018. That's an average of one shooting incident on a campus every 63 hours. Thus far in 2018, more than double the number recorded in any of the previous 3 years in that same period. So this is something that is just getting worse. Okay, this situation is not getting better, it's getting worse. I remember when I was younger, and I remember when Columbine happened, and Columbine was not considered normal. You didn't have shootings like that on a regular basis. And since Columbine, this has just become normal. And what's really dangerous is I'm afraid some people are becoming numb to it, because when things like this happen on such a regular basis, whether you're talking about Vegas, whether you're talking about Sandy Hook, whether you're talking about the Pulse nightclub shooting, whether you're talking about the Charleston shooting with the Charleston 9 at Mother Emanuel, this stuff is happening so often that people just, I'm not going to say people don't care, because people do care, but the extent of the outrage is just becoming numb for some people. And that's very, very bad, because it means that some people in society, and I don't think this is really, I do think that there's a political difference in how people, whether you are on the left or on the right, I do think there's a difference between how different groups of politically minded people are going to react to this. But like, we cannot allow this to continue. And I don't know, the answer is easy. The answer to the problem is easy, but the political will is just not there. So let me just continue. The numbers that I just gave you, those numbers are according to data compiled by the gun control advocacy organization called Everytown for Gun Safety, which defines a school shooting as any time a firearm is discharged on or around a campus. 17 people were killed in Wednesday's shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. That was the name of the high school. President Donald Trump has spoken vaguely about the need to curb shootings, saying, after the Las Vegas shooting that the U.S. would, quote, start talking about gun laws as time goes by. Trump is not going to do anything. And Trump and many Republicans, because Democrats are better on this issue than Republicans, Trump and the entire GOP, they're complicit and they're not going to do anything about this. The money that they are getting from the NRA at this point needs to be looked at as blood money. Or because they're literally now at this point being paid off not to do anything. Okay, and that just goes to show you how deeply corrupt this country is becoming, and already has become, quite frankly. So I mentioned Trump's response. He said he made no mention of guns. He only talked about mental health, and this is another common theme that I've seen in the media. This is a common theme that I've seen echoed among politicians, not just Trump, but the Republican governor of Florida. Nobody wants to talk about guns. Every time these situations happen, you get people who say, well, it's not time to politicize it. Let's get the information. And they just repeat that. And what they're really doing is they're waiting for the story to die down and go away. Because okay, so where's the research? Where's the studying that they did after Vegas? Let's ask them that. What conclusions have you come to after Vegas? So if it's too early to politicize this, is it too early to politicize Vegas still? And that happened months ago. No, this is about Republicans and a lot of the gun rights advocates in this country who are putting their right to own guns ahead of the safety and the lives of Americans across this country. Their being able to own guns means more to them than people getting shot and killed by people who should have never owned guns in the first place. Because we've made it entirely too easy for people in this country, especially people with actual mental health problems. We've made it entirely too easy for people to gain access to guns. So because of this, these shootings are happening way more often than they actually should be happening. Especially when you compare our shootings and our numbers to other developed countries. It's like night and day. It's not even close. So Trump's new budget not only cuts funding from mental health programs, okay, but also cuts millions of dollars from the gun background check system. That's absolutely insane. So here this guy is going on television talking about, we need to look at mental health. This guy is cutting funding from mental health programs. He's making it easier for people who shouldn't own weapons to get weapons. Trump got $30 million from the NRA by himself. This isn't including other members of the GOP. Trump by himself got $30 million from those people. So he basically got paid to not take this issue seriously. And we saw even when Obama was in office, we saw how resistant the Republicans at the time were to doing anything about gun control because they didn't want to give Obama any political wins. Okay, so the Republicans under Obama were completely un-American. Okay, in their treatment of Obama when he was in office, and their complete undemocratic and un-American conduct while he was in office. Okay, but we're seeing that it wasn't even about Obama because they're not even doing anything under Trump. They're not going to do anything about this issue. Nothing. And people have to start to ask themselves, should these people be in power? Obviously, the answer is no. These people do not represent us. And if they don't represent us, then we really don't have a representative democracy. This is a failure of democracy. This is showing flaws in our democratic system. It's showing how weak our democratic system is. We have our democracy is so weak that we have basically a plutocracy at this point. We have rule by the rich. Rule by the rich and rule by corporations. And they run this country through lobbying because they pay off politicians through legalized bribes, and because of this, the politicians really represent them more than they represent us. That should be clear as day at this point. So let me pull up another Huffington Post article regarding Trump. Where is it at? Hold on, family. All right. So this Huffington Post article is called Trump's budget cuts millions of dollars from gun background check system. Okay. This would significantly undermine efforts to keep firearms out of dangerous hands, gun control advocates say. They have a picture of Trump standing in front of this giant NRA banner at an NRA, forum that he went to at some point in time in the past. It says President Donald Trump's newly unveiled budget will cut millions of dollars from the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, which gun dealers use to verify if someone is banned from buying a gun before selling it to them. Buried on page 719 of his fiscal year 2019 budget released on Monday, the president calls for cuts to the National Criminal Records History Improvement Program and the NICS Act Record Improvement Program. Both provide federal grants to states to help them improve their reporting on criminal records and protection orders to the national database for background checks, including domestic violence records. The two programs are currently budgeted at $73 million. Trump's budget proposal for the fiscal year that begins October the 1st would slash their funding to $61 million, which amounts to a 16% cut. Gun control advocates say these federal grants have been, quote, critical funding sources for states trying to routinely submit comprehensive records to the National Background Check Database. Quote, President Trump claims that he wants to build a safe, strong, and proud America, but his actions do not live up to his words, said Robin Lloyd of Giffords, the gun safety group founded by former Representative Gabby Giffords, Democrat of Arizona, who survived a gunshot to the head in 2011. Quote, instead of strengthening the nation's background check system to make it effectively, to make sure it effectively keeps guns out of dangerous hands, he slashed funding for this critically important system, which will significantly undermine its effectiveness. End quote. So, that's part of the article. I'm not going to read the whole article. That's the gist of the article, though. So yeah, that is how deranged this country, and when I say this country, I'm not talking about rank and file Americans. Okay, I'm talking about the leaders of this country. Again, loosely, using that word very loosely. Okay, I'm talking about the people in this country who we elect to put to correct problems. They're not actually correcting these problems. They're making these problems worse. And they're doubling down on some horrendous policy ideas that are literally going to lead to the deaths of more Americans. Everybody should be worried about this. So it came out soon after the shooting that the particular killer in this case, who, like I said, I'm not going to name, had ties to a white supremacist group known as the Republic of Florida, which is a group. It's a white supremacist militia in Florida that, quite frankly, nobody has ever heard of before this incident. Okay, and it came out through primarily, I think, the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. They were the first ones on this, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but they were definitely one of the first ones to put this out there, to put this information out there. And you can either go to the ADL's Twitter feed, Twitter page, and you can see the link to the website that they, or you can see the link to the article that they posted on their website. It's titled, Florida White Supremacist Group Admits Ties to Alleged Parkland School Shooter, and then it gives the shooter's name. It says a spokesperson for the white supremacist group Republic of Florida, or the ROF, claimed to the Anti-Defamation League on Thursday, February the 15th, that the killer, the man charged with the previous day's deadly shooting spree at a Parkland, Florida high school, was associated with his group. Now there's an update, and the update basically says that the leader of this group, who was claiming association with the killer at first, he's now backtracking, and the police have even come out and said that as of right now, they don't know if there are any direct ties between the killer and this group. I'm assuming they're still looking into it, but again, this is just so typical. In so many of these cases that involve shooters, and especially if the shooter is white, they go out of their way to push the mental illness angle, and they go out of their way to claim that these people aren't associated with groups, and they're just lone gunmen. Okay, in some cases I believe that might be true. In other cases, I find that very sketchy, because when the shooter is of a different complexion, or especially of a different religion like Muslim, the dialogue in this country and on the media and among law enforcement is completely different. They don't hesitate to throw out terrorism labels. They don't hesitate to try to connect people with ISIS and all these other groups. But for some strange reason, when it's other people, the narrative changes. The narrative always changes. So let me read some of this article to you. It says the killer, who is 19, a former student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, allegedly entered the school on Wednesday. That's just repeating stuff that I told you guys already. After self-described ROF members claimed on the discussion forum 4chan that the killer had also been a member. So you had members of the ROF on 4chan claiming that this crazy person was a member of their group. Okay, the ADL spoke with an ROF member who identified himself as Jordan Jerub. Jerub, who is based in Tallahassee, is believed to be the leader of the ROF. In 2016, he was arrested on charges of threatening a staffer in the office of Florida Governor Rick Scott because he was allegedly angry at the staffer's son. Jerub said that the killer was associated with ROF, having been, quote, brought up by another member. Jerub also claimed that the killer, the terrorist, that's how he should really be recognized, had participated in one or more ROF training exercises in the Tallahassee area, carpooling with other ROF members from South Florida up to Tallahassee. The ROF has members in North and South Florida. The alt-right white supremacist group borrows paramilitary concepts from the anti-government extremist militia movement. And so ROF describes itself as a, quote, white civil rights organization fighting for white identitarian politics, end quote. and seeks to create a quote white ethno state in Florida. So they're basically white supremacists. You know, they can try to use the label of civil rights all they want. They're not tricking anybody. They're a white supremacist organization that low-key advocates for killing people. Okay? And they openly advocate for they call them lone gunmen activists. Okay? No. They don't say lone gunmen, they say lone wolf activists. So you can read between the lines and you know exactly what that means. I talk so much about not falling for how a lot of these white supremacist groups try to co-opt language that you see a lot of black civil rights people using and black activists. They try to co-opt language that they see black people using in other groups of people, and they try to co-opt like civil rights and things like that. They try to co-opt these words to try to make it seem like they're not white supremacists. Okay, because they feel like they could be more accepted if they use terms like, oh, we're just a white civil rights organization. We're no different than the NAACP, which is a black civil rights organization. They play little BS games like that. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for that Jedi mind trick. So like I said, you know, they're now the Jeb dude, Jereb, or whatever his name is, he's now coming out distancing himself, and this is what I actually think this makes the likelihood that the killer, the white supremacist terrorist in this case, I actually believe now that he definitely is associated with this group. Because if this was something where the ROF was coming out claiming that he was theirs just for shits and giggles and just for clicks and just to get their name out there and to troll the public, why would you need to necessarily distance yourself from that previous statement if you know that there's no real connection between you and the killer anyway? Like so even if you do think, okay, well, if I say this, then the police and the FBI or whoever's investigating this, they're gonna come and they're gonna start investigating me and what I'm doing. But you know that there's no real link between you and the killer because you know you're just trolling. So why would you distance yourself from the previous statement? Unless, of course, you weren't thinking because you're ignorant, and you saw this as an opportunity to brag because he was one of yours, and you like you say on your own website, you advocate for lone wolf activists, quote unquote. And he was acting out in that way. He was acting as a lone wolf activist. And something else, by the way, before I finish that thought, this Jereb dude actually even on his social media celebrates a white supremacist terrorist, a documented terrorist who killed scores of people in Norway. So we already know that this is a man who likes terrorist activity. And then you see that they're actually even using ISIS tactics. Whether or not these crazy ROF people, whether or not they were actually telling the truth or not about whether or not this killer is actually one of theirs, the mere fact that they're even claiming this, whether it's true or not, puts them directly in line with groups like ISIS, because that's what they do. Whenever you have a Muslim who commits an act of terrorism, you know, across the world, you always have ISIS is coming out and claiming that he's one of theirs, even when that might not be true. And it's been proven on several instances that what they're claiming is actually not true. We haven't found any connection between this Muslim terrorist and ISIS. This is just something that they're claiming. This is just something that they're saying. So this ROF, they're like parallel to Islamic terrorist groups. Okay, but going back to my previous statement, like, I believe that he actually is connected to this group because he's now coming out and saying, oh, well, you know, I misspoke. I didn't mean that. You know, he said something along the lines of he was sleepy or he was speaking in sleep or some dumb mess that he said. He's now claiming that he was lying. So I don't buy that though. And I think this whole thing is going to be swept under the rug. You're already seeing people come out and say that it's not true because, like I said, they're trying to distance this from acts of terrorism. They're trying to, because if you connect him to this ROF group, then it becomes harder to make that lone wolf argument. It becomes harder to make that argument. It becomes harder to say that, oh, it's just a mental health issue, which is what they want to say. They don't want to connect it to terrorism because they don't like calling white killers terrorists, obviously. And that's been shown on numerous occasions. So there have been a number of right-wing lies about this shooting. BuzzFeed documented 17 different fake stories. Okay. And as I've said several times before, the whole fake news talk from the right, guys, a lot of that is projection. So much of that is projection. Most of the fake news comes from the right wing. The main perpetuator of the fake news claims is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, he's one of the biggest liars to ever sit in the Oval Office. This man lies through his teeth, and a lot of his supporters are no different. When I get to Black Panther, I'm trying to hurry up and get through this story so I can talk about Black Panther. When I get to Black Panther, you're gonna see a similar situation where you have a lot of haters and a lot of trolls who are making up fake news stories about people being attacked after going to Black Panther. They routinely just make stuff up. They make stories up and they prop up these straw man arguments to make themselves feel better. They're some of the biggest perpetuators of fake news in the country. Okay, I'm not saying that there isn't propaganda on the left or there's not propaganda in other groups. But you're hard pressed to find any group in this country that lies as routinely as the right wing does. They have entire propaganda sites just filled with lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. This is a thing for them. And we have to understand that right now, in this country right now, we're basically in the middle of an information war. So, I'm not going to read every bit of I'm not going to read every single one of the fake news articles or the fake news stories. But just know that there are a lot of fake stories out there. And you see this after every shooting. After every shooting, you have people who come out making claims about stuff that's just not true. So you have to be very careful about what you're retweeting because there's just too much. There are too many people who politicize these shootings as soon as they happen because they wait around to see if the killer is Muslim or if the killer is black so they can come out and spew a bunch of Islamophobic and racist rhetoric. So the last thing I'm going to say about this story, because I've been talking about it for almost 40 minutes now. When this country didn't do anything after Sandy Hook, and our politicians weren't moved by children being massacred, okay, it was clear at that point that nothing would be done. The politicians in America who continue to allow these massacres to occur are not only complicit, but they have blood on their hands. And any politician that isn't taking this seriously needs to be taken out of office. They do not need to be in office right now. So that's all I wanted to say about what happened in Parkland. I haven't seen the news yet today. I haven't turned on the mainstream media today. I'm sure they're back to talking about Russia. Honestly, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. But I haven't turned it on, so I'm not sure what they're talking about right now. But so now I want to talk about. This is what I've wanted to talk about since the beginning of this live stream. I should have honestly made this whole live stream just a giant review of Black Panther. Let us talk about Black Panther now. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, and you're listening to this live stream, whether you're listening to it live or whether you're listening to the replay that's going to be posted after the video that's going to be posted after the stream is over. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, just cut the video off now. Go somewhere else, because you will be spoiled. You're about to hear what happened in this movie, so I'm just giving people a heads up. Black Panther was incredible. Black Panther is... Hold on one second. Let me actually, before I really get into it, man, Periscope is really messing up right now. Periscope, at least on my Twitter, like it's like lagging or something. And every time I try to fix my settings, this thing is still always giving me problems. I don't know if it's OBS. It might be Streamlabs. But I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with this. But anyway, give me a second because I'm about to tweet something out. Hold on one second. All right. Okay, so here we go. So now that I went ahead and hit up some hashtags and let everybody know that I was talking about Black Panther, now let's get into the actual review. Like I said, this was an incredible movie. I didn't cry or anything like that, but it's easily the best MCU movie, in my opinion, that I've seen so far. And I like a lot of the MCU movies. I like Thor Ragnarok. I liked Civil War, Captain America Civil War. I liked Captain America the Winter Soldier. I liked Iron Man 2. I liked Doctor Strange. I liked Ant-Man. I liked most of the MCU movies. But Black Panther, for me, it touched my soul. Like, and this is how a lot of people feel about this movie. The acting was top notch. None of the actors gave a bad performance. Chadwick Boseman was incredible as T'Challa. But I don't think anybody expected anything different because we already know he's a great actor. And we've already seen him in Captain America Civil War. So we already kind of knew what we were going to get from him. So I think because of that, and this is the first time we're seeing some of the other actors and actresses, this is why you're hearing more about some of the other people. Like, so Letitia Wright, who played Shuri, me personally, I think she stole the movie. She stole a lot of the scenes that she was in. She was comical. She was powerful. She was smart. I loved her Shuri. Now I look forward to them making her the Black Panther. I think we're leading up to that. I don't think it's gonna be Black Panther 2, but it wouldn't surprise me if by the time we get to Black Panther 3, it wouldn't surprise me if she's the Black Panther, and then we might see Chadwick, because I don't think they're gonna not have Chadwick Boseman in the movie. I think what they'll do is they'll have Shuri sitting on the throne, and they'll have Chadwick Boseman somewhere else in the world, maybe in the United States or somewhere else, doing something maybe with the Avengers or some other group of Wakandans. But I do think I can see her easily being on the throne at some point in time in the future. And I look forward to that, and I think she can handle that role. So Chadwick Boseman was incredible. Letitia Wright was incredible. Lupita Nyong'o, okay, as Nakia. Lupita was incredible. And she was basically T'Challa's, or Chadwick Boseman's, she was his love interest. She was his ex in the movie. and they kind of show at the end of the movie that they ended up getting back together. Now it's interesting because in the Christopher Priest run, Nakia actually turns on Black Panther. Nakia actually becomes a villain. Now they didn't go in that direction in the movie, but I'm wondering if they're going to do that in the future. They might end up doing that in the future. We're going to have to wait and see. But Lupita was great. Denai Guerrera as Okoye, she was awesome. Daniel Kaluuya as Wakabi, like he had a really interesting arc, because he thought that there's a part in the movie where Black Panther, where T'Challa goes after Ulysses Claw, and they find out that Claw is gonna be because in the movie Claw and Killmonger steal this ancient, not so much ancient, but this old, I think they said like 17th or 18th century Wakandan weapon, and they steal it from this museum in London. And later on in the movie, they try to sell it, and we actually find out that it's the CIA, and I can't think of the actor's name. Martin Freeman, that's his name. It's Martin Freeman's character who's buying it from Claw, and they don't really explain why they're doing that, but you know, we see Chadwick Boseman, attempting to prevent that from happening, but in Wakabi, Daniel Kaluuya's character expects him to be successful in that. And we actually, after they failed to actually apprehend Claw, or actually, no, they do apprehend him, but he escapes. Killmonger breaks him out of prison. They actually show this in the trailers. Or not prison, but in the little, the little interrogation room that they had set up. So Daniel Kaluuya, you can kind of tell that, Wakabi is his character's name. You can tell that there's some tension between him and T'Challa. And so there's a part in the movie where Killmonger actually takes the throne. Then I'm gonna get to Michael B. Jordan in a second. I'm gonna get to how his character in a second. I'm gonna get to him next. But there's a part where he actually assumes the throne and he dethrones T'Challa because he beats him in combat, and he wants to use Wakanda's technology to basically start insurrections around the world. And they kind of allude to this, but obviously he's talking about insurrections among black people. He wants to use Wakandan weapons to arm black people around the world to basically overthrow governments. Real crazy. So, well, let me not say that, because a lot of people are on Team Killmonger, but I'll get to that in a second too. But so Daniel Kaluuya, we see his character Wakabi actually, agreeing with Killmonger, and at the end of the movie, there's a big battle scene, and he actually turns on the Wakandans in the Dora Milaje. So, his character was really interesting. He was in more of the movie than I expected him to be. But let's talk about Michael B. Jordan now. Michael B. Jordan is my favorite villain in the MCU. And I'm not the only one saying that. A lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are talking about how first of all, the reason why he's such a good villain and what separates him from so many Marvel villains is that he actually has a strong character arc. In so many of these Marvel movies, the reason why so many of these villains are not viewed favorably by the public is because so many of them don't really have character arcs like that. We kind of just see them doing evil things and doing bad things, and we don't really properly understand their motivations. And you can kind of see where some directors try to do this better than others, but in so many cases it just really falls flat. Yeah, it really falls flat. And like even with Thor Ragnarok, I like the actress that played Hela, but we never really know why she's really doing what she's doing. other than she's the goddess of death, and that's why. And Odin did something, messed up to her in the past. It was something shady to her in the past. He locked her away in some sort of realm where she couldn't escape or something like that. And I guess she was mad about that, and so now she wants to destroy all of Asgard. But that makes no sense. And even with Surtur, another villain in Thor Ragnarok, he's just some evil fire demon. He has no real motivations, and he's only in like 2 scenes in the movie anyway. Like, and that's just one example. And you look at Doctor Strange, and the villain in Doctor Strange, I can't think of his name because he's honestly very forgettable. We don't really know why he's doing what he's doing. We just know he's an evil magician, an evil warlock who just stole some page from a spell book, and he wants to bring in Dormammu. He wants to bring in this evil, cosmic being, and he wants this evil cosmic being to take over the world. We don't really know why. He's just doing it. And that's in so many of these MCU movies. And it's refreshing to see a movie where the villain has like a point. Like and they kind of do this in Captain America Civil War with Baron Zemo. I kind of understood Baron Zemo's motivations because his family died in Age of Ultron. His family got killed in Age of Ultron, and he blamed the Avengers for it. So you kind of understand his motivations. Captain America Civil War was so large. It had such a large cast, and there was so much going on that they really couldn't focus on him like that. All we knew was that he was bitter because of what happened in Age of Ultron. That's really it. That's the only real motivation that he had. So yeah, Michael B. Jordan was incredible. And like I said, in the movie, his character challenges T'Challa to a duel, because in the movie, if you want to rule the country, you can challenge the Black Panther to a fight, and if you beat the Black Panther, if you defeat him, basically if you kill him, you can rule the country. And at the beginning of the movie, when Black Panther is going to his trials to become king, we see M'Baku, who I'm about to talk about in a second, played by Winston Duke. We see M'Baku challenge Black Panther, and he fails. And then you kind of can, and I'm going to get to this when I talk about some of the downsides of the movie, because there's some parts of the movie were slightly predictable. Because you could kind of tell when Michael B. Jordan, when Killmonger challenges Black Panther, you can kind of tell, okay, yeah, he's about to beat him. And you can kind of tell that they're setting up a redemption story where Killmonger is going to take over and Black Panther is going to have to reclaim the throne in some sort of epic battle at the end of the movie. And that's kind of what happens. And I kind of saw that coming. But now let's talk about Winston Duke. Well, first, let's talk about Angela Bassett and Forrest Whitaker. Both of them played. Angela Bassett played Ramonda, who was supposed to be T'Challa's mother, adopted, or I don't think Ramonda is his biological mother, but I think his father they don't really explain this in the movie, but I think his father remarried. T'Chaka remarried after Black Panther, or T'Challa's biological mother dies. And Ramonda is basically like his mother now. So she wasn't in much of the movie though, but in the parts of the movie that she was in, she played a very good she executed very well. And then Forrest Whitaker plays Zuri. And Zuri, he does die in the movie. And I was kind of surprised by that. But I think they did that to show how deadly Killmonger was. If your name is Killmonger, they have to show him killing somebody. And so Forrest Whitaker ends up dying in the movie. So that was kind of sad. That was kind of upsetting. But he played his role in the movie, and he was very effective in the movie as well. But yeah, let me go back to Winston Duke. He played M'Baku. And I really liked his character. His character was funny. He wasn't in much of the movie. He was mainly in about 3 scenes. He was in early on in the movie in Act 1 when he challenges and fails to defeat the Black Panther. Then he's in, I'd say, like the second half of the second act, when we found out that it's actually him and his cult, his tribe, that comes across Black Panther's body. And it's actually M'Baku who actually is responsible for keeping T'Challa alive. So it kind of shows you that he's not really a villain. Even though he challenged the Black Panther for the throne at the beginning of the movie, he's not really a villain. And then he was at the end of the movie. He comes back and he actually helps the Black Panther and the Dora Milaje overthrow Killmonger. So let me talk about the visuals for a second. This movie was beautiful. I saw it in 3D. Everybody should see it in 3D. I wouldn't say you necessarily need to, but it definitely looks better in 3D. It definitely does, and I'm really glad I decided to go in that direction with the movie. So yeah, it was visually stunning. You know, that's you know, there's nothing negative to say about that, especially when they show the technology. The story was very good. I mean, like, certain aspects of the story were somewhat predictable, but I really liked the world building. I really liked that they spent so much time in Wakanda. You know, because they didn't have. See, I'm so glad they didn't go the Thor route. You guys remember? If you guys think about Thor 1, the first Thor movie, if you guys think about that, one of the big problems with that movie, even though it was better than Thor 2, The Dark World, but one of the problems with the first Thor movie is that way too much of that movie was spent on Earth. Way too much of that movie, Thor 1, should have been spent world building Asgard, and they didn't do that. And that, I think, ended up hurting the series, ended up hurting the trilogy in the long run, because they had to play catch up a little bit in the future movies. But they didn't do that with this. They spent a lot of time in Wakanda. We got to see different regions in Wakanda. We got to see, you know, M'Baku's region. We got to see what they called the borderlands, where Wakabi was sort of the head of the borderlands. The borderlands are basically the area where the black, it looks like, because they have this whole thing where they pretend to be a third world country, and that's another thing. Martin Freeman's character, he plays a CIA agent, he kept referring to Wakanda as a third world nation, and they put that in there intentionally to show how, I think that to show how people look at Africa and how people slight Africa and how Africa has a lot more to offer than people realize. And I think they threw that in there. They kept referring to Africa as a third world, or they kept referring to Wakanda as a third world nation. But this is kind of something they played up on with the Wakandans, because in the border regions, they have this whole setup where anybody who comes close to the Wakandan territory, and you don't actually see the technological city itself, because they have it shielded. They have this whole, like, it's almost like augmented reality. It's like fake mountains. It's like this fake mountain thing that they have set up. But they have a border region around that area where it actually does look like underdeveloped. It looks underdeveloped, and it looks like there's not a lot going on there. And this is done intentionally to fool outsiders, basically, to fool the colonizers. And so yeah, so they did world building like that. So we see the border region, we see M'Baku's region, we see the technology region, that they have this whole underground area that's super advanced, and that's where Shuri works, and she's like Iron Man. She's the Iron Man, or the Tony Stark of Wakanda, right? And she has her whole setup. She's easily has to be one of the smartest people in the MCU. Probably easily next to Iron Man or Tony Stark himself. So I like the world building, and I like the character development. I like how much time they spent on that. So the story was excellent. I love the story. Now let's talk about what it means culturally. Like really why so many people have gravitated towards this movie. Black Panther is more than just a film. And it's a lot of people have been comparing it to Wonder Woman. And in all honesty, I think it's even a bigger cultural statement than Wonder Woman even. Because even though yes, we haven't really seen too many comic book movies with female leads. I think like outside of Wonder Woman, the only one I can think of is that horrible movie Elektra that came out like 2004 or something like that. So I understand why Wonder Woman, why so many people gravitated towards that, but with Black Panther, there's such a strong political statement being made with this movie. And there are a lot of themes. You have the whole Martin Luther King, Malcolm X thing going on. You have the whole radical message in the movie that's echoed through Killmonger. That's why so many people have watched this movie and they say, you know what? I kind of agree with Killmonger. I'm kind of on Team Killmonger. Now, I don't know where I fall on that discussion. I don't know if I'm so much Team Killmonger or Team Black Panther, because I don't agree with Killmonger's tactics, because he was prepared to destroy Wakanda, because that's ultimately what would have happened if he would have been allowed to go through with his plans. He would have torn Wakanda apart. Okay, and you could have imagined him like jailing people who disagree. He would have become a dictator, basically. That's what they were setting up. So I'm not really necessarily Team Killmonger, but I understand where he was coming from. I understand why he was pissed off. And I understand why he wanted to use Wakanda's weapons to help black people abroad. But his methods of doing that were completely off whack, completely out of whack. So I can't say I'm Team Killmonger straight up. So I'm kind of between Team Killmonger and Team Black Panther, honestly. I think they both. I can understand the arguments for both in this regard, but Black Panther is so much has been made about how movies like this can't be successful. Okay, so much has been made about how movies or superhero movies with all black cast won't do well internationally. There's been a lot of fuss made about that, and this movie is going to completely disprove a lot of that stuff. Okay, so it's going to perform extremely well in the box office. Check this out. Black Panther could make over $200 million on its opening weekend. It's definitely going to do that internationally globally when you combine the international numbers. But it has a chance of doing that domestically, which is insane. Projections, Disney is projecting 150 million domestically, but it's going to do more than that. It's going to definitely do more than 150 million. It's bouncing back and forth between 97 and 98 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's currently right now looking like it's going to be the best reviewed Marvel film ever. Like it's gonna beat out every other MCU movie in terms of reviews. So it's gonna break that record. Okay, it's gonna break the record in terms of how much money it makes in February. The current record holder is Deadpool. I think Deadpool has made over 4 days. Deadpool made like 151 million. It's definitely gonna beat that. It might do 170, 180, and like I said, some projections are now saying 200. So this movie is absolutely viral. Everybody and their brother and their mothers is going to see this movie. And because of that, This movie has attracted a lot of haters. When I was talking about the Parkland shooting, I was mentioning fake news and how a lot of right wingers are there have been over 17 different fake news stories from the right about the Parkland shooting. You have fake news stories around Black Panther cropping up too. You literally have these haters, these colonizers, okay, who are claiming that they went to see Black Panther and they got attacked. And they're posting up fake. Some of the photos are actually real, but they're stealing photos of women who have been beaten in different cases, and they're using those photos and they're putting those photos on social media, claiming that those women were beat after or at some sort of Black Panther premiere. That is the extent to which these people are going to try to prop up these straw man arguments to attack this film. And it just goes to show you how triggered these haters are. They wanted this movie to fail so badly. They wanted this movie to bomb, and it's not gonna bomb. It's actually breaking records. And it might gross $1 billion when it's all said and done, which I don't think anybody predicted that. I wouldn't have even said that 2 weeks ago. It's looking like it might crack $1 billion though, which would be insane for a movie like this. So it's not bombing, and they're mad about that. The story and the movie itself doesn't suck. The movie itself is very good, and it's the best reviewed MCU movie of all time, and so they're mad about that. So so they can't do to this movie what they did to The Last Jedi, which is what they wanted to do. That's why you had those stories coming out before the movie came out, like last week, the last week or two. You've had these stories come out about how some of these alt-right types and some of these white supremacists were on Facebook plotting to downvote the movie on Rotten Tomatoes, and that got exposed. So they're trying to do to this movie what they did to The Last Jedi. Problem is, The Last Jedi had genuine flaws. Like, the Last Jedi visually was a gorgeous movie. It looked beautiful. Okay, you can't take that away from the movie. But the story had a lot of flaws. The story, quite frankly, was a hot mess. And it contradicted a lot of the things that were in The Force Awakens. And so a lot of these right-wingers who didn't like the fact that you had a Asian woman and a black man who were in a lot of scenes together by themselves, and there was a message about slavery and child slavery and things like that in the movie. They used the fact that the movie that story elements in the movie were actually really bad, and this is that The Last Jedi wasn't that good of a movie from a story perspective. They used that, they piggybacked on that to smear the entire movie and to put out these, it's the social justice warriors, it's XJW and all that BS. They can't do that with this. They can't do that with the Black Panther, and they're heated because of that. Because now, if they come out and try to do to the Black Panther what they did to The Last Jedi, it's gonna be clear that they're just trolling. It's gonna be clear that they're just hating on the movie. Because the movie actually isn't bad. It's nothing like The Last Jedi. So they can't piggyback on the fact that the movie is bad like they did The Last Jedi. And to use flaws in the story to try to smear the entire movie. Okay? So you had Ben Shapiro propping up his strawman arguments, talking about Wakanda isn't real. Nobody was saying Wakanda is real. That is a complete red herring. That is a complete straw man. Nobody was saying that. Okay, so to run around and say, well, Wakanda isn't real, so what are you guys so excited about? Okay, Asgard isn't real. Iron Man isn't real. Captain America isn't real. None of this shit is real. These are comic book movies. We know this already. So stop it. The colonizers need to stop it. Because they're not going to win this argument. They just aren't. They're just going to look salty as AF. I'm not gonna curse. They're just gonna look salty AF. That's all they're gonna look. They're just gonna have. I have my jar of tears that are being collected at the moment. So anybody on the right who wants to add to this puddle of tears in this jar that I have set up, go right ahead. You can add to it. Be my guest. Have fun. Have at it. So that's all I wanted to say about the hate that the movie is getting. Everybody should go check the movie out. It is an incredible movie. The hype is real. It's not forced. People aren't getting Disney checks to say that the movie is good, and it's really not. This is a legit good movie. It is a cultural statement. It is an event. It is going to get 2 sequels, definitely. And this, in my opinion, like I said at the beginning of this review, this is the best, in my opinion. Everybody's not going to view it this way. And I don't think, if you don't think it's the best MCU movie of all time, I'm not going to say, I don't think you're a racist if you don't think it's the best. Okay, but me personally, I think it's the best. It's my personal favorite. Because it means that much to me. I'm definitely buying this on Blu-ray. Without a doubt. So follow me on Twitter @_BlackIntellect. Follow me on Black and Intellectual on YouTube. And check out my blog at www.blackandintellectual.com, where I have my writings, some of which I don't actually discuss on my live stream. I have original writings in article form on my blog, so definitely check that out. And I will be back with you guys on Monday, February the 19th. After the weekend is over at 12 noon, I will see you then.